This is a short set of pictures from the Ardennes 1944 PBI Games Day, held at Dorchester. The rules used are PBI. The figures are in 50mm. Now, here's a short background. The German battle group is assumed to have successfully made a river crossing south of Malmedy. The battle is set on ground further west, with the town of Stavelot at the southwest end of the table and the village of Franche-Champs to the northwest end of the table. The initial action is the German assault to break through thinly defended US lines, with the objective of reaching the far table edge to allow final push onto the Meuse and Antwerp, but not in this actual game. Allied reserves can arrive from the left of this photo and the far end and the near end of the photo. On the right is where the Germans are appearing. The table is split down the central spine, but it's assumed the tables can be moved from one to the other. What you see here is looking along the rear table of the game. This is the table on which the US and some British reinforcements will arrive. In the far distance you see the Stavelot. On the left you see the front table where the Germans will be arriving. This is a panning across the table showing the woodland, nicely constructed by Duncan, thanks very much, and it's very thick in parts. This part would be on the start line. All the forces involved were laid out on specific sheets and organised by Big Mike. There's a lot of tanks and infantry here. Here is a picture showing the rear table, the one where the US forces arrive. There's a fuel dump there in the centre. And here's one of the little villages, Stavelot. This is a low-level view of the table on which the Germans arrive, to your right. Here's a good view showing both tables. To your left is the rear table, where the American reinforcements arrive. That's Big Mike, the organiser. Here are most of the players. Here's the players in action. And here's a close-up of Stavelot. This shows the huge German armoured thrust with Panthers, Panzergrenadiers, etc. The few Americans on the left. A good overview of the initial German advances in the morning part of the game. There's an afternoon part as well. German units breaking through. You can see them in the upper left hand corner. A few tanks, AA guns and some infantry pushing forwards. There's a fuel dump central on the left. On the same flank a little bit later on, US troops turn up with some armour and some infantry to try and stop the breakthrough on that flank. The village of Franche-Champs, with yet more Germans piling in. There's going to be some British appearing on the flank at some point. But at this point the Germans are reinforcing their breakthrough. This is more central in the battle line, showing the very rough terrain, the icy roads and the huge amount of forest in the Ardennes area. Once again, here's some central area work with Americans holding the trees and some Germans trying to get past them. More German troops arriving. Very shortly they get hit by American high explosive using proximity fuses and a lot of these infantry you see here actually got themselves wiped out. Looking along the German lines still early in the day, or day one, once again the village of Francorchamps with German infantry holding it, ready for a possible British attack on their flank and Americans at their front. At the other end of the table we have the Americans once again trying to hold Stavelot. Here is one of the battle reports from one of the German commanders operating on the left wing of the Germans. My Volksgrenadier company, accompanied by a pair of Wirbelwind flak panzers and platoon of engineers, was positioned on the far left flank of our army group's advance. My men saw very few enemy in front of them, and although wondering what might be lurking in the fog ahead, had their confidence bolstered by the heavy armour and panzer grenadiers of Kampfgruppe Meacham on their right flank. Advancing rapidly by road and through woods, we soon wiped out the thin line of US resistance. As day one drew to a close, we had made some great progress for little loss, and my command was further reinforced with a troop of 6 Panthers. Day 2 saw our advance continue rapidly on towards the Meuse. We discovered much needed fuel dump, which, despite early fears that it might be booby-trapped, and an HE strike by the retreating Americans, was secured and held. While I sent a platoon on a flank march into the town ahead of us, we had no maps and the locals had taken the signs down, so we never knew its name, 4 of my Panthers raced ahead to the far edge of our zone and proceeded to bombard and machine gun the enemy on the far side of the town. My remaining brace of Panthers was subjected to a heavy Allied air attack from rocket-firing Typhoons and were lucky to get away with just 2 immobilizations. Shortly afterwards, I was glad that they were still in place there, as they were well positioned to protect my rear from a sneaky British flank attack. Unfortunately, my tank commanders failed to spot the 2 Sherman Fireflies amongst the enemy, with one paying the ultimate price when his vehicle was knocked out by a shot to the rear engine compartment. My men, supported by the adjacent Kampfgruppe, got their revenge in the next round of shooting and took out both Firefly tanks, half of the total number within the Allied forces facing us, according to intelligence reports. Meanwhile, my flank march platoon wiped out a platoon of elite paratroopers within the village that assaulted them. However, my remaining men were wiped out to the man, and I was wounded myself in a subsequent assault by a 2nd company of US paratroopers. As I made good my escape to the edge of the town to take control of the rest of my company, we held on to the forward fuel dump with the engineers, advanced the platoon under cover of the Wirbelwind to help clear the town, and sent some reinforcements to the rear to support the last remaining Panther, and to keep our lines of communication open in the light of the British assault. At the end of day 2, we had a very strong hold on the town, from which we were clearing out the last resistance, and a clear breakthrough towards the Meuse beyond. Success. Here's another comment, this time from an American Central Unit platoon. Sarge, when we get out of this goddamn forest, feels like we've been trudging through the snow for hours now. Kowalski says he heard firing behind us. Does it mean we're cut off? Do you think we should turn back? D'Angelo, you'll see your share of fighting soon enough. Don't worry about that. The only thing you have to worry about is keeping the snow out of your bazooka. We got word there's Kraut tanks ahead.